nothing wrong with it. And now when I decided to run for president, some of the same people came forward and said, you can't run for president. So I said, why? And they said, because you have to wait your turn. There's a line. I said, well, I didn't know there was a line, but wait for what? What are we waiting for? After 7 years of Barack Obama, this is not a time for patience. This is a time for urgent action, because if we get this election wrong, there may be no turning around for America.
Let's get the job done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what will it take to get the job done? Well, first, what it will take is we must, at the end of this process, bring this party and this movement together. We cannot win if we are not together. That doesn't mean we're going to agree on everything. It does not. But we have to be unified. We must come together. And when I'm our nominee, I will bring the party and the conservative movement together. I will unify us so we can win. But that alone will not be enough. We need to go out and convince more people to become conservatives than we have right now. And we're going to do that when I'm our nominee. We are going to go to the people who are living the way that I grew up. My father was a bartender. My mother was a cashier, a maid, a stock clerk at Kmart. They were not rich. They were not wealthy. They were not influential. They were not politically connected. But they instilled in us the values that I hold today. I'll never forget growing up. We lived in Las Vegas for a few years, and we didn't have a lot of money, and there wasn't a lot for kids to do in Las Vegas, especially in the early 1980s. And so my parents sometimes would take us and drive through these nice neighborhoods with really nice houses. One of the houses was Liberace's. I don't know why I remember that, but it was one of the houses. Some of you don't even know who Liberace is, so why are you laughing? And my parents had a choice. My parents could have taught us, you see these people that live in these nice houses? The reason why we live in a small house is because greedy people like this live in a big house. That's not what they taught us. You know what they taught us? They taught us, if that is what you want, if what you want is to be financially successful and live in a house like that, you live in the one country in the world where it doesn't matter that your dad is a bartender and your mother's a maid. You can do that too. My parents knew that America was a special country because they knew what life was like outside of America. We need to reach people like that now. To the single mothers that are raising children on their own, living paycheck to paycheck, the big government liberals have lied to them. More taxes, more government, more spending is not the way forward for our country or for them. To the students that are struggling under student loan debt, I know what you're going through because I had a student loan. 3 years ago, I still owed over $100,000. And I was only able to pay it off because I wrote a book. It's called An American Son. It's available on paperback, in case you're wondering. All right. That's not a joke. It is available on paperback. Okay. And to the children, and what about to the families that are raising their children in the 21st century? They can't lecture me about that because, as you just saw, my wife Jeanette and I are raising 4 children in the 21st century. And we know that it's gotten harder than ever to raise our kids with the values we want to instill in our homes instead of the values they try to ram down our throats in the popular culture. When I am our nominee, I will unite this party and I will grow the conservative movement by taking our principles to people that have not voted for us in the past and convincing them, as I know we can and I know we will, that our approach is better than what Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton is offering. When I'm our nominee, we will win. And you know who knows we will win? You know who does not want to run against me? Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. They know that if I'm our nominee, they lose and we win. It's why they attack me more than any other Republican in this race. They don't want to run against me, but I can't wait to run against them. I cannot wait to run against Bernie Sanders if he's their nominee. Bernie Sanders is a socialist. Yep. Now, usually that's a slur, but no, he's a socialist. Like he says he's a socialist, like in his commercials. Bernie Sanders is actually a nice guy, and I said the other night he'd be a really good candidate for president of Sweden. And then the Swedish people got really upset at me. I had these two young men from Sweden at one of my events in Iowa, and I thought they were going to chew me out. Why are you saying this about? They said, why would you do that to our country? So I take it back. He's not a good president for anyone. Hillary Clinton is no laughing matter. Hillary Clinton can never be the president. She's not qualified to be president. Well, Hillary Clinton took highly classified information, and because she believes she's above the law, she put it on her private server. So classified that the State Department can't even release them because they might put people's lives in danger. She thinks she's above the law. And maybe her plan was, I'll win, I'll become president, and then I'll pardon myself. But she's not going to win. And here's what's worse. Hillary Clinton is disqualified from being commander-in-chief. Because anyone who lies to the family of people who lost their lives in the service of our country can never be the commander-in-chief of the United States. So I'm asking you for your vote, because if you nominate me, I will unite us. I will grow this movement. We will win this election, but you deserve to know something even more important. Not just why are we going to win, but when we get there, what are we going to do? It is not enough to be angry. You have a right to be angry, but anger is not a plan. And perhaps no state in the country demands more of their candidates than New Hampshire does, and you should. The role you play is so important. And as a candidate, it's so rewarding. Tomorrow we're going to begin a series of town hall meetings where we get to answer these questions. And truly, it is the best debate prep you can possibly do, because the people at the town halls often have much better questions than the moderators at these debates. The Fox debate was good, okay? They did a good job. I just want to say that. But the point is, you deserve to know what we're going to do. So today, it'll take an hour to go through everything we're going to do, but I want to give you some of the key points of the things we're going to do. The first thing I'm going to do is take the oath of office, which means I'm going to place my left hand on the Bible and my right hand in the air. And before this nation, and under the eyes of God, I'm going to swear to protect and defend and uphold the Constitution. And unlike Barack Obama, I will actually mean it. That means, for example, that as president, I will not undermine, I will defend the Second Amendment, because you have a constitutional, God-given right to defend your family against criminals and terrorists and anyone who seeks to do you harm. After I am done taking the oath of office, I am going straight to the Oval Office. And as soon as I walk through those doors, I'm going straight to the desk, and I am going to repeal every single one of Barack Obama's unconstitutional executive orders. Every single one of them. And that means that all these crazy EPA rules that are destroying jobs in America, on my first day in office, they're gone. This executive order that undermines the Second Amendment, on my first day in office, it's gone. Any work the federal government is doing to try to take over our K-12 system that belonged to school boards, on my first day in office, any work to impose Common Core stops on my first day in office. And on my first day in office, no one is going to doubt whose side America's on when it comes to Israel. Because on my first day in office, I will end and cancel Barack Obama's deal with the Ayatollah of Iran. As long as you don't say polo, because it really... I hated that game. I really hated that game. When I'm president, we're banning Marco Polo. It will not be allowed in our schools or... Where was I? The economy. Our economy's flatlined. You know how many millions of Americans, you know how many of you are working harder than you've ever worked, and you live paycheck to paycheck. And by the way, I have people in my family that are facing this. And these people are nurses and teachers and firefighters. They live paycheck to paycheck. They are one broken refrigerator, one bad, all the brakes go bad on your car away from having to scramble to figure out how to pay for it. And why is that happening? Because this economy under Barack Obama is flat. The jobs that it's creating don't pay enough. And you know whose fault that is? It's not your fault. It's the policies of this government's fault. Policies that make us uncompetitive. Policies that are running up the debt. Policies that leave in danger Social Security and Medicare, important programs. Programs that my mother's on. I've taken a very hard stance. I am against anything that's bad for my mom. So when I'm president of the United States, we are going to become globally competitive again. We're going to fix our tax code. We're going to roll back our regulations. We're going to balance our budget. I have a plan. Go to my website to save Social Security and Medicare, not just for people that are on it now, but for people in the future like my children and your children and grandchildren. We're going to fully utilize our energy resources. We are going to do what it takes, and when we do it, there will be no economy in the world more vibrant or more competitive than the U.S. economy once again. When I'm president, we're getting rid of Obamacare. I know that everyone running for president as a Republican is against Obamacare. I am the only one running for president that's ever done anything against Obamacare. I led the effort, and we got rid of a bailout fund that they had created in Obamacare. They were going to bail out private insurance companies with your money. And I wiped out that bailout fund. I led the effort to do it. And we saved taxpayers $2 billion. When I'm president of the United States, by a simple majority vote in the House and Senate, we will repeal and replace Obamacare once and for all. As I've already told you, and many of you probably already know, my parents weren't born in the United States. I am the son of immigrants, the grandson of immigrants. Jeanette's entire family are immigrants. We grew up in a community of immigrants, and I live in a community of immigrants. I understand this issue deeply and personally in all of its complexity. I know that first and foremost, immigration and the debate about it now has to be about keeping ISIS out of America. Now, it's not about a religious test, it's not about discrimination, but we have to do things differently now because we face a threat that wasn't here before. A radical and sophisticated jihadist group that wants to move killers into our country. And we will not allow that to happen. When I am president, if we don't know who you are and we don't know why you're coming, you are not getting into the United States of America. The other thing we have to fight off, and as the son and grandson of immigrants, I get really annoyed by this, is the argument that if you want to secure your borders, that's anti-immigrant. It's not. Every sovereign country in the world does this, or tries to. We have a right to control who comes here, how they come here, and when they come here. And for 30 years, we have not done that well. That will change. When I am president, we are not hiring 20,000 new IRS agents. We'll hire 20,000 new border agents instead. We will finish the 700 miles of fencing and walls that the experts know we need. We'll have mandatory E-Verify, a mandatory entry-exit tracking system to keep people from overstaying visas. You do that and you will see this issue come under control, and it will come under control quickly. And after that, we'll deal with the rest of it, not amnesty. Criminal aliens are going to be deported right away, and sanctuary cities, when I'm president, will lose all of their federal money. The most important job I'm going to have as president is commander-in-chief. It's the most important job any president will have. The one we have now is not a good commander-in-chief. He's a terrible commander-in-chief. Because the world is a more dangerous place than it was 7 years ago. North Korea is governed by a lunatic who unfortunately has nuclear weapons. The Chinese government is rapidly building up their military. They steal our inventions. They steal our secrets. They hack into our computers. They're taking over the South China Sea. Vladimir Putin sows instability in Europe and in the Middle East. Iran is about to get $100 billion of sanctions relief. And they're not going to use that to build orphanages. They're going to use that to build up their military, to acquire a nuclear weapon, and to sponsor terrorism. And ISIS is not just a bunch of people on the back of pickup trucks, the way the president made them sound at the State of the Union. ISIS is the most sophisticated and well-funded jihadist movement in history. This is the group that burns people alive in cages. This is the group that takes little girls as young as 9, 10, 11 years of age and sells them off to their fighters as brides. This is the group that's aligned with Boko Haram, who just set a village on fire. Little kids died in those fires. This is who we're dealing with. This is an apocalyptic group who believes that their job is to trigger the end of the world and the rise of a Mahdi, their messianic figure, by triggering an Armageddon-style showdown in a city named Dominick in northern Syria. This is a dangerous group. And in the face of all of these dangers, what is Barack Obama doing to our military? He's gutting it.
He's the worst.
He's gutting it. He's gutting our military. He is the worst when it comes to this, and I'll explain to you why. Our army will soon be the smallest it has been since the end of World War II. Our Navy will soon be the smallest it has been in 100 years. And our Air Force will soon be not just smaller, but with the oldest airplanes it has had in our history. And what to me, quite frankly, is unacceptable is that when we have people running for president in the party of Reagan who have voted for budgets that brag about cutting defense spending even more. This is unacceptable. Providing for the national defense is the most important job the federal government does. It is the reason why we have a federal government. When I am... And by the way, these cuts aren't just bad for America. They are unfair to our men and women in uniform. We're still asking them to put their lives on the line. We're still asking them to confront danger, but with older airplanes, with less people by their side. Some of them have to go out and buy their own equipment because what they're being handled, what they're being given is not good enough. So when I am president of the United States, we are not cutting defense spending. When I am president, we are rebuilding the U.S. military because the world is a safer and a better place when America is the strongest military in the world. When I'm president, we're going to have a real war on terror. And here's how it's going to work. The best intelligence agencies in the world are going to tell us where the terrorists are. The best military in the world is going to destroy the terrorists. But if we capture any of them alive, they're not getting a lawyer, they're not getting a court hearing, they are getting a one-way ticket to Guantanamo, and we're going to find out everything they know. And by the way, as part of our national defense, we are going to take care of our veterans again. We're not doing that now. If you're a veteran, I want to thank you for your service. We all want to thank you for your service. And in that vein, let me add that in that vein, today when there's a terrorist attack, the first people to respond in America are firefighters and police officers. I am so sick and tired of reading about all the police officers that this bad or that bad. Police officers and firefighters are fellow Americans that are willing to die before you do. We are grateful to you for your service, and we thank you for what you do. When I'm president, and by the way, a lot of police officers and firefighters happen to be veterans. When I'm president, and you're a veteran, you are going to be able to take your VA benefits to any hospital or any doctor that you choose to go to. So in closing, I want to thank you for being here today. This is about to start most exciting period of time that, well, every 4 years you do this, so you guys are veterans at this, but it's the first time I do it, and it's a lot of fun. And for me, it's an extraordinary privilege to be able to do this, and an honor. As I've told people often, to me this election is deeply personal, and I want you to understand why. Why I have this sense of urgency and passion about what we confront as a nation. Because America is not just the country I was born in. America is the nation that changed the history of my family. As I told you earlier, my parents came here in 1956. They had it hard. My father stopped going to school when he was 9 years old because his mother had died. He had to go work. 9 years old. He had to go work. He never went back to school. My mother didn't have it much easier. When they first got here to America, they had it hard. They were discouraged. Life was not easy. The lore in our family is that some of the first words my father ever learned in English was one of my older cousins who had lived here for a year and was going to school had phonetically spelled out on a little slip of paper the words, "I'm looking for a job," or "I'm looking for work." The first words he probably learned to say in English. And those first years here, they were tough. I think I said this last night, but within less than a decade after my parents came here in those circumstances, they owned a home. Not a mansion, but a home in a safe and stable neighborhood. Years later, they retired with dignity and security. And the most important thing of all, they were able to live to see their children grow up to have a better life than theirs. That was the purpose of their life. It gave purpose to their days. And I always tell that story, because when I do, I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about you.
That's what we want.
Well, I'm talking about all of you. Who among us is not but a generation or two removed from that? Who among us is not a generation or two removed from parents who made your future the purpose of their lives? Or grandparents that made your parents' future the purpose of their lives? Maybe some of you are that parent now who works hard every day because you want your kids to be able to do all the things you never had a chance to do. It reminds us that what makes America special is not that we have rich people. Every country in the world has rich people. We're grateful that we have rich people. It means we're a successful nation. But what makes us special are the millions of people that know they're never going to be rich, and that's not what they want. They just want to be happy. When you become a nurse, a teacher, a firefighter, a police officer, a welder, an airplane mechanic, a car technician, you know you're not going to become a billionaire. Your goal in life is to have a job that you enjoy, that pays you enough to own a home and do things you like and save for retirement and leave your kids with a chance at something better. And the fact that in America, it doesn't matter whether you started out or where you came from, that is available to everyone. That is what has made us special for over 2 centuries. That is the nation that inspired the world and changed the course of human history. And now we must decide whether we still want to be that kind of country. We're losing it. It's slipping away. And if we stay on the road we are on right now, we will be responsible for losing it. We will be the first generation in American history that leaves their children worse off than themselves. And I, for one, want no part of that. And so now this generation is called on to do what those that came before us did. For you see, the greatness of America was never automatic, and it was not an accident. This is a great nation because for over 2 centuries, each generation did what they had to do. Your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, they too faced great challenges, and they confronted them. They did not leave their problems for you. They fixed them. Now the time has come for us to do that as well. If you elect me president, we will do it. If you elect me president, this generation will do its part. And when the history of this time is written, here's what it will say of us. It will say that we in this generation, like those that came before us, rose up to the great challenges. And because we did what needed to be done, we didn't just save the American dream, we expanded it. It reached more people. It changed more lives than ever before. Because we did what needed to be done, our children were freer and more prosperous than any Americans had ever been. Because we did what needed to be done, the 21st century was better than the 20th century. It was a new American century. This is the opportunity before us, and we must seize it now. And so I'm asking you to vote for me next Tuesday. If you haven't done so already, sign up for our campaign on the website here before you leave. We want to stay in touch with you. We're not going to bombard you. Well, we are going to bombard you with emails for only 8 days. And then we're going to leave you alone until August and September. because we're coming back to win New Hampshire in the general election, and we're going to beat Hillary Clinton, and we're going to turn America around. Thank you, and God bless you. Thank you.